everybody. David Donaldson here with Joseph Martin and Rachel Knapp, an associate out of our Keller Williams Kingstown office. And Rachel's going to be joining us today, and we're going to be talking about systems for success. Rachel's been a licensed realtor now for a couple of years, and in trying times have seen her business double and grow and continue to do so. We really wanted to hear her story today and understand how is she doing that in really, which is of the most recent times, some of the most trying times for realtors. So Rachel, welcome to Entrepreneurial Impact.
Thanks for having me. And I just celebrated my third year as an agent, as a realtor, and came to KW just out of the hospitality industry. Pandemic drove me into real estate. So when you talk about tough times, I don't know of any other times. These are just my only times are these 3 years, right? So it's been an interesting time. But so should I just talk about how this year?
Yeah. So hospitality, right? It's always interesting. We hear people like their background, which is always intriguing to me. Now, I'm I'm a recovering hospitality guy myself. Worked in that industry. Joe worked in that industry. Literally, some of the most successful people I've ever met in real estate have that service background coming from hospitality.
That's so funny you say recovering hospitality person. We do say that, right?
Oh, I don't think you ever leave it, right? It's an art. Like I did it for over 20 years, right? I didn't know any different. Like I didn't have nights and weekends off. And when I transitioned to real estate, I'm like, oh, guess what? I don't have nights and weekends off.
It's so true. It's in our DNA. It's a DNA. It's serving. How may I serve? The operations comes into it. It's just really going above and beyond. We wouldn't even think of anything. The relationships, how we treat our people, we wouldn't even consider anything less, right? So, I'm originally from Las Vegas. So that's sort of also in my DNA. I've been on the East Coast for a bit, but love living in the DMV region. I think it's my forever home. I think it's one of the best places. I've lived around in a lot of places, but I think it is one of the best. I'm super happy here. So I love this region. Definitely great for real estate. As Drew would say, we're very insulated here. Always short of inventory. So my team leader, Drew Swirsky, has really been he's been my guru when it comes to real estate and what I'm doing. So I do love it here. I love this brokerage. So KW was absolutely hands down the best choice for me when it comes to developing me, not just in real estate, but also in my business and running a business.
So when we look at your systems and your success and growth over the last 2 years, how did you go from where you started 3 years ago to where are you now? Like, what weren't you doing that you're starting to do now? What was that eye-opening journey for you like?
My first couple of years, I was a little bit dual careering a bit. I was still dipping my toe back into some hospitality work. But the difference really between last year and this year was, psychologically, it really motivates me that there's a psychological thing with starting a new year, with just being ready and really going strong that year. It's something that motivates me very strongly to start fresh, start that new page. So I really started, though, not in January. It started really third quarter of last year. Drew sat us down. We sat in a room, and he said, we've been teaching. It's true. We've been learning all the systems, all the whole MRE model, everything that we've learned. I've really tried very hard to listen, have it resonate with me, implement it right away, and not just continue to listen and not do anything with it. But so I've listened, I've learned, I've ingested it, remembered it. And then in third quarter of last year, Drew sat us down and said, hey, what you guys do now in fourth quarter is really going to be the biggest thing that's going to move you next year. And I listened and I did it. And I went deep in my database that fourth quarter, just really, I've nurtured them. I've had them on campaigns, but I really went deep, just making sure that I was absolutely top of mind. And then we had a great, we had the Overthrive, we had the Speed into Overthrive, we had a KW sort of mastermind workshop at the beginning of next year. Drive and
Overthrive, yep.
Overthrive. So that gave some just shift into Overthrive, yeah. So it's really great. Gave some great, just an overview of the systems again, the pillars, and then I just started the year right. I started with a plan, a crystal clear plan. I started with a coach. I went to a coaching program, and then I also started with a cleanse. I did a holistic cleanse. I did like basically a mind, body, and soul cleanse. The first 21 days of the year last year, and I just really just went deep and said, I'm doing it this year. My goal was 3Xing my business. I doubled it. I really wanted to 3X it, but I set the goals, and I just set it with an urgency. I really maintained a daily urgency that I had to meet these goals. It was not, I didn't relax. I just, every single day, and the entire year, I wanted to, because I grew like a fear of losing momentum, and that's what I did. That's the main way I started my year.
An incredible motivator.
Yeah, absolutely, and absolutely having to have it. Sometimes I think fear drives more. I mean, we can put our dreams up, we can put what we want up. Sure, we can say, hey, we want this, this, and this. But sometimes fear works more. I can make my vision board, but I can say, okay, if I don't get this, what's it going to mean? Like, what will it mean to me if I don't achieve this goal? What will my life look like in this manner or in this manner? So it's mindset, it's story for sure. It's having the plan, having the systems, having the clear goals. And I really just worked hard to stay clear all year. And keeping out also, schedule blocking is really important, but you have to block out the noise. When you're starting your day, I think starting the day right is important, and you want to schedule block. And if you're doing your prospecting in the morning, you need to make that time sacred, block out all the other agent talk and all the different shiny rabbits and all the other different roads you can go down to lead gen, or what this person's doing, or who's having success over here. And if you know your systems, you need to work them and just block out all the distractions. And that was definitely successful for me.
You shared a couple of things, and we keep tying back to themes, and it has to do with the time here, but you kind of said, hey, end of last year, I kind of started looking at things, and I sat down and I set my goals about, hey, and then you also said, hey, I am now, this is my profession, this is my career, I'm going to do this and run this as my business, right? What was that trigger or change that made you, because it wasn't as good as Drew is, and he's listening, right? I don't want to give him too much credit for everything because you did it. But what was it that allowed you to open yourself up to say, now's the time?
I just didn't want to continue.
I think you said that I needed to be fearful of something.
I wanted more. I wanted to be more in an abundance mindset and not a scarcity mindset. That's really what it was. I want more in my life. I want more out of my, whether it's financially or just a more balanced life. And I want to have more control over what I can do, what I can get for myself. In real estate, it's one of these few industries where you really can make such a big impact financially on yourself, on your life, if you do it right. So that was really what it was. It's really leaving the scarcity mindset, which I had really, in my last career, and with the pandemic, you really sort of go into, how can I save money? But it's not about that. It's really about how can you drive revenue? How can you produce more? That's really what it was. And running it like a business, I don't think that was an epiphany really for me, because, as we know in hospitality, we work hard, operations is that. I've always worked hard. I'm a pretty good self-motivator. It's really motivating yourself and doing the right things, following the right systems.
Rachel, can I pause you there? Because you actually said something that I want everyone that's listening in hears it. You're talking about a mindset. What you're actually hitting on, I don't know if you're aware of it, is that you're talking about a mindset of, like, you can talk about scarcity, abundance, or growth, limiting, whatever label you want to put on it. But what you're saying is that you have to have a mindset of investment, and that, like, you have got to put in the work, and cutting back can actually sometimes, I'm trying to think of how to say this with a good, like, storyline behind it, but you can cut yourself to death, meaning, like, you actually have to figure out sometimes where you bet on yourself and put an investment in something that has you scared so much that you have to do the work that's actually necessary for you to grow.
1,000%. That's 1,000. And you said it better. Actually, investment, that's a great word, because it's not just investment in money. It's investment in time. It's investment in yourself. It's an investment in your belief And it's so true. You just said that cutting back and actually cut your own, you're cutting your potential. You put you into that, like, let me just, it's almost cutting yourself down. I mean, in a way, that's a really good, if you're thinking about really mindset. True. And here's one thing I did, and here's kind of a thing I did that kind of drove me there. I actually hired a part-time cyberback, a part-time VA, probably earlier than most people would have said I should have in my business. Everybody said, why do you have a part-time? You're not doing that amount of business. I did it in the middle of last year when I was doing very mediocre sales. But I knew there was going to come a time that I needed to be out there prospecting and talking to the actual people that only I can talk to, while someone needs to be taking care of my database. Someone needs to be taking care of my touches and my campaigns and the little things that would like drive me down, like all these, really drilling down into the details I don't need to be in with designing an email or designing a social media post or whatever. I still have a lot of control in the content and the theme, but most people would say, why are you spending that money? And that I'll attribute that leverage really did help me get out there and expand in volume and be able to talk to more people. So that's a very good example of investment right there that I probably wouldn't have spent, And then since then I've spent money on things that didn't work for sure. And I've learned a lot this year, what worked, what didn't work, what's going to spend, like where can I leverage this money? And I'm starting to learn to have a better understanding of ROI. But it was good that I learned all of them. And this year also with my pillars, my first year I'm like, okay, well, I'm learning all the pillars and we use all the revenue, all the lead gen pillars. And the next year I'm like, I'm going to dial down, only focus on 3. And now I know I can't survive with just a couple of pillars. I have to have some main pillars, which are like my golden egg pillars. And then I have other pillars that are like, I still have to have my hand here, there, and there. So
since you're on that route and you got people turning in that want to, like, there's a lot of people that listen have a similar story to you or some way of aligning to it, right? So since you went and opened up Pandora's box, I'm going to go down this hole. So let's do this. What are the 3 things that you did that failed miserably that you would give to people and say, here's the 3 things you don't ever want to do because I went down that road? What are the 3 things you regret the most?
Pay to have someone run your Facebook ads, some other service to do it, to drive them into like a there's different sites out there that have like a bot site where you can it's the funnel system when you can drive the Facebook ad through the funnel system. It's doing these automatic answers. That's not good. Let me clarify that one because I was a little confused. So don't pay for somebody outside or you don't do it yourself. Which one is that? No, I don't think you need to pay someone to do it from the outside. You need to run these ads we have the technology with KW, and now it's even improved. It's an improved technology with the Facebook ads through campaigns, so through command. So I would say no. That was a bit of a waste of money. But I learned. It's hard to say because, well, I think online leads. There's some value to them. Some of the different lead aggregators, but you just have to know it's a big chunk that you're paying for the online system when it comes to referral fees. So I think it might, and I'm not saying that this shouldn't be done. I'm just saying I went my course with them, and then I've kind of moved on from spinning that.
Hey,
so those are my 2.
Don't worry about yeah, that makes complete sense. It's your thing. Like I totally just want Rachel's interpretation of like, hey, This stuff is my recommendation of not doing. So don't outsource your social media stuff. Don't do the referral stuff because the cost of sale is too high. What's your 3rd mistake that if you could go back to when you first started, you wouldn't do?
All right, so spending money on a farm that you hadn't vetted yet. So I have now, I have a couple, I'm actually leveraging sharing a couple of farms with a couple colleagues. So we were very, very strategic with the farm picks, and we've been successful. But I wasn't there. I just looked at the farm like, let's just farm this neighborhood because I sold here. Let me just prospect this farm and email out to them. And it wasn't a high performing area. So those 3 things, you really do want to vet your farm, understand what the sell through is, what what they're selling at. I can tell you. Can I share one thing that I do? I probably do that was a big contributor for me, and that most people don't do. And that's rental leads. I mean rental clients. that has been a really important part of my business. It establishes my pipeline always for the next year. And it's not just my people who are going to be buyers, but, also their referrals, their rental referrals from those buyers. So I believe that anyone that is just, especially if you're a newer agent, one of the biggest messages I can give you is take care of your renters. Take the rental, take them, and then convert them, maybe not then, but in a year, or their dad or their brother or their neighbor, and convert them, and those people. And run those ads. Run your own Zillow ad from rentals. And you can do that as well for your rental listings and get additional people. So I've been able to definitely leverage those into building a good pipeline for buyers.
I think that's a brilliant, underutilized strategy, Rachel. Mainly because if you look, especially if you're selling in a high price point market like the district, DC, Maryland, and Northern Virginia. You're running into issues where it's actually cheaper to rent, especially if you know what they're qualified for and all that kind of stuff. It's actually cheaper to rent. Not that I would ever, in the real estate industry, push somebody to rent and pay somebody else's mortgage, but in cost, segregation and figuring out what people can afford. And so I think I agree with you that if you could wait on it, they might be able to buy in 12, 18 months and you've built that relationship, but you actually still got them into an amazing rental property. So huge.
You're right about that. The rental rates, people complain about them, but compared to the mortgages, are actually, they're not that high. And honestly, during some slow times, if you know how to run your system for your renter and be efficient, you can fill up a nice little volume, make a little extra, side money while during a slow week or something that month. So you have to work smart though. So.
Let me ask you this one, since you said you have your golden pillars. What are your golden pillars for success in lead gen?
Definitely my PC, my SOI. I definitely take care of them. They're touched. I was wondering before I went on the call, how many times are they being touched? And I've been it's leveraged out, but I would say if it's just number of touches, it's probably about 70 times a year. But unique touches, I'm going to add about 17. In terms of different types of things, a couple of events. Quarterly calls. I probably make 3 of the 4 to 4 calls. I probably don't make all of them. I do some magazines for top people, a birthday and a Christmas card, monthly newsletters. They're neighborhood nurtures. I do a biweekly market update, which my VA does for me. And I've taught her how to do the market stats. So. So it's the PCs and the number one. I have to say my farm's starting to turn into one of them, and it's a pretty good one. Open houses, hands down, open houses. I've done, I don't know, probably about 30 this year, maybe probably more than 30. I haven't counted them, but I usually do.
I think
do
that's
a couple.
Priceless.
Mm-hmm.
I think open houses is priceless. That's how I started my business. That's how I coach people to start the business. People have gotten away from it. I get there's the COVID element to it again, and the challenging aspect of limited listings right now. But I think right now that is the absolute, for me, I love that you brought that up, a huge barrier of entry for people to jump through and master those and establish relationships with people that are looking.
You have to, and it's one of the fastest turnovers, for that client. If you could have a 30 to 90 day turnover with someone else, if someone's at an open house, typically they're raising their hand, so, or you're also developing for sellers, it's also, open house is always, when Drew has the best open house training, but honestly, it's 2. You're looking for the unrepresented buyers and the sellers in the neighborhood. So I've done a ton of door knocking and mailing this year. Tons of door knocking, not just with open houses, but with open house, you have such a great built-in topic, right? So I would say open houses, my PC, farm. I do calling. I warm call, cold call, but I've changed that into now. I've changed who I'm calling. I call absentee owners in my farm, but I also call old expireds. I found that first day of the expire list is just not my person. You have to also find something that fits your personality, something you feel passionate about. I don't want to be racing everybody else that's calling. So
absolutely, there's a lot of things that are out there that you can do, and I think you have to find, as Joe was mentioning, the things that work best for you. You can sprinkle in some other things, right? You got to give them their duration and try them to see if they truly work. but you have to keep coming back to what works for you. And I love that you're saying, hey, look, I have a social play, but I manage it, right? It's my story that's going on out there. I'm doing open houses, and that is they're warm, right? If they're walking into an open house, whether it's now 6 months, but you've got that relationship that you're establishing. And 30, your communication, like you threw a number out there of 70 touches. Like people, like I've talked to stories about people. This is always cracking up. Like, oh, that's so much. You guys talk about talking to people so much, but in the right layered approach, right? Newsletters, calls, coffees, Popeyes, right? Thank you cards, all of those things. It adds up very quickly. Actually, I had a conversation with an agent who was saying, you're telling me to do these things, 36 is too much. But actually, when we sat down and mapped it out, it was north of 50. That's that mindset that we started with you in the beginning, is like the mindset about what we're doing and knowing what works. And that is not a big number. And when you add all those things together, you can suppress that very quickly when you're in relationship with people.
Top of mind awareness. And I have a card, a Christmas card I just got back. I sent from a client that I door knocked her. It was, I think back in the day, it was maybe one of Drew's open house. It was a neighborhood around there. I door knocked about the open house. I have kept in contact with her for 2 years, because eventually she's going to retire. She needs to move. Her children are in Richmond. She just sent me sometimes she does, she answers me and sometimes she doesn't. She just sent me a Christmas card. I literally have it up here. You never know. You have to, you may not spend all your time on them. Like I got smart, and if I consider my prospects, if they're not doing something in the next 30 days, I put them on a nurture, maybe touch base with them, maybe monthly, maybe quarterly. I don't make myself crazy. I'm not trying to let's get them to change their life this week if they don't want to change their life till next year. But I still want to make sure that I'm their woman. I'm their go-to agent. I'm who they're going to pick when that time comes. I never want them to forget about me.
You're recognizing that within your systems, there's a message for different people at different times in their life and where they are, right? There's the buy now conversations or sell now conversations that are more intense, right? There's the people that you've kind of helped where you maintain a relationship. And there are others that you meet that aren't necessarily in a buy now that you're establishing, but your communication patterns have to change to your audience. So you're paying attention to your audience.
You have to, yeah. I mean, listening is what we do, right? We definitely have to listen. I think risk work smarter.
So you've been very open and candid with us about hey, this is what worked, this is what didn't work. If you're telling somebody else outside of what you're doing, and you're saying, here's the one thing I would do today. Here you are a year later, right? It's kind of interesting. You said, hey, I kind of really poured myself into October last year to kind of set my business planning. So was there any changes from what you set last year, goal planning, or how you did that, to where you are today that said, hey, when I modify my GPS for 2024, here's what I'm going to keep from last year that was successful. But here actually is some changes that I made to strategy going forward.
Yeah, I mean, all those things with me, it's about momentum and urgency and tempo. I want to be able to, because now I'm looking at I want to 4X next year. So I have a pretty high number I'm trying to meet. So, if I want to have 4 times the amount of closings, 4 times the amount, I need to do 4 times the amount of leads, right? I need to go out and source those. And what am I looking at? I'm looking at I'm looking at maybe, all the different things that don't cost money. So maybe a Facebook marketplace listing that I'm putting on there. I've heard about those, someone doing those. It's interesting. But looking at the things that I can do quickly and easily, making sure that I know what to say. I role play 2 to 3 days a week, every morning, all year, 7:30. And I use it always for cold calling, but at least now I'm able to speak to someone with rejection handling. But I guess for this year, my difference is I just need to start. I need to re-cleanse. It does, just because I've done these doesn't mean that it's a constant self-awareness of what's slipping. And, I've slipped in a lot of things, like how I'm starting my day. So I need to make sure that I believe that, realtors, they say, oh, I start my day early, really early. And I believe that it actually does make a difference. So right mindset in the morning, whether you're doing your morning motivation, but however you're starting your morning, for your story, what you're telling yourself about the day, your declaration about that day, fitness in the day, and then just hitting the ground running and blocking everybody out. It's so important to bulletproof your morning. So important to bulletproof your prospecting time. That to me is that's my thing for next year. If I'm going to tell anyone, do that. We've had people, we have all the information here. Listen to the systems, follow the systems, treat them like it's so urgent. You cannot possibly settle for anything less. I guess that's what I would say to that. So I don't know if that answers your question.
No, it really does. And I really appreciate your time today. And I love seeing you just pour it. And your awareness is just, it's great, right? And you touched on all the important things because your life is getting in balance. And when it's out or you feel it's off, you're addressing it. You're addressing yourself financially. You're addressing yourself, right, through fitness. You're addressing yourself businessly. You're monitoring all of those things because when one of those goes out of whack, the dominoes fall to set everything else out of whack too. That's really kind of what I'm hearing you say. It's a consistent work and it's never finished. And if something's out of alignment, I've got to tweak that or it really does affect me in all aspects.
Yeah, we talk about our mindset or our story, it's true. But once you learn to deal with your story, you need to just okay, I dealt with it and just quit just take action. And I think sometimes we're analysis paralysis. Sometimes we just need to get out there and just keep at. And if we make a mistake or we pick the wrong thing or we do the wrong, quit asking everybody, trust yourself. And if you make them, what's the worst thing can happen? As long as you're not making a legal mistake with a client, we definitely need to make sure we know the contracts, we know the laws, we know how to take care of our client, we know our timelines, we follow, we stay compliant. But other than that, we just need to step, take the step and go. So
don't dwell and keep charging ahead.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then just the story time, just get rid of it. That's it. Bad stories.
Well, Rachel, I can't thank you enough for joining us today and sharing your story with us. It's been a great ride for you, and I can't wait to see you 4X your business next year.
No accountability there. You got everybody that's listening knows that you're going to get 4X goal. No pressure.
That's right. So everybody that sees Rachel, ask her how far into the 4X she is.
I know. All right. That's okay.
All right, everybody.
All right.
Well, listen, thank you all for joining us on another episode of Entrepreneurial Impact. I'm Dave Donaldson with Joe Martin and our guest, Rachel Knapp. Have a great day, everybody.
Everybody.
Thanks, gentlemen. Have a great day. Thanks.